In the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, peace be upon you. Since childhood, I had a deep longing to see the house of Allah and to visit it. I had told my father many times that I wanted to perform Umrah. My father replied, "Daughter, I don't have the means for that. Fulfill this wish after you get married and go to your husband's house." I never imagined that after going for Hajj and Umrah, my life would change so drastically. After my marriage, I shared the same wish with my husband. I still remember how happy he was when he heard of my pure desire. He said, "All right, I will not just take you for Umrah, but for Hajj as well." My wedding took place before Ramadan. After the Eid al-Fitr, we started preparing for Hajj because my husband had applied for it a long time ago. I was about to witness the greatest happiness of my life. I can't even describe how happy I was. Before the Eid al-Adha, just a few days before our departure, my husband told me that we would be leaving for Hajj very soon. I was overjoyed, but that night when I entered our room, I saw a worried look on my husband's face. He was staring at the passport and asked me, "Nagin, promise me that you won't be unfaithful to me there, right?" I was shocked by his question. "Alam, what's wrong with you? Do you think your Nagin would ever betray you? Don't even think about it. Husbands and wives may have thousands of fights and disagreements, but in the end, they always remain together. If you ever feel this way, just look into my eyes." All right. No need for all these dramatic talks," he replied. His words left me disturbed. I couldn't understand why he would even think like that just before our Hajj journey. After all, people remember only Allah before embarking on such a sacred journey. And I had always heard that before Hajj and Umrah, all fears in a person's heart are erased and one becomes spiritually rejuvenated. Before we left for Hajj, my husband's aunt invited us to her house and said she had something important to discuss. I didn't know why she spoke to me in a way that made it seem like she was hiding something, but still wanted to reveal it. When I reached her house, she told me after dinner, "Daughter, come to the rooftop. I need to talk to you." I followed her to the rooftop, and she said, "Child, life brings great trials and calamities, but since you're going for Hajj, pray for your husband and never think of leaving him, no matter what happens." Her words left me anxious. Why would she say something like that? If there was nothing to worry about, why would both my husband and my aunt say the same thing? I was filled with countless doubts and fears. I wanted to tell my father about everything, but I stayed silent. I thought to myself, I'm going to visit the purest of all houses. How could anything bad happen to me there? Time moved on, and within a week we departed for Makkah. My heart was pounding as I kept wondering if I would be able to perform Hajj or not. This thought kept crossing my mind. At one point I even had a dream where I was being pulled away as I tried to reach the Kaaba, and I couldn't complete my Hajj. I prayed to Allah with all my heart, asking Him to make sure I would not have to return without fulfilling my wish. But who would have thought that something like this could happen to me there? I had told my husband, since we will be worshipping until late at night, make sure to book a hotel as close to the Kaaba as possible so we don't face any inconvenience. My husband reassured me, "Don't worry, our hotel is only 500. Reluctantly, I showed her my passport while holding it in my hand. She laughed and said, "A passport won't tell me anything about food arrangements. I meant you should show me the rest of your documents too." Her words left me bewildered. She then said, "All right, if you don't feel like showing it, you don't have to." She stared at my passport in surprise and asked, "Are you married?" "Yes," I replied. "I got married 5 to 6 months ago." Hearing this, she stared at me as if it was her first time hearing of a married woman, as if getting married was a crime. "All right, you must be hungry. Come to my house. My husband runs a big business here, and our house is filled with all the luxuries of the world. You'll see a palace-like view at my house," she said. Her words intrigued me, and I became interested. She continued, "You know there's no crime or theft here. This is a pure city where only pure people reside. Even if an impure person enters, they are caught." Her words were sharp and bitter. I couldn't understand her completely, but I thought, there's no harm in going with her. I followed her. After walking for a while, she reached a car. "Come on, sit in my car," she said. A large, dark-skinned man was driving the car. I felt even more puzzled seeing that she had arrived in a proper car. I wondered if her sole purpose was to chat with me, or if she had come here looking for me. I wanted to open the car door and leave, but one look at her face convinced me she didn't seem like a bad woman, so I stayed seated. After driving for 20 minutes, we stopped in front of a beautiful garden with a white mansion-like house inside. The house looked like it belonged to the Mughal era. She held my hand and took me inside. As soon as I entered, her face turned stern. "You've come here, and now you'll leave only with my permission," she said in an odd tone. "Of course, guests can only leave with the host's permission," I replied, trying to keep things light. Then a tall man with a bent posture walked out of the house. He looked cruel but also seemed humble. He said, "Daughter, go and sit in the room and rest. This house is yours now." I felt as if they had known me for years. The woman took me to another room and said, "You must be thirsty. Take water from your bag for now, and I'll make you some sherbet." I opened my bag to get water, but it was gone. My heart sank. My bag, which had my passport, documents, and everything I needed, was gone. My hands were trembling. I searched everywhere but couldn't find it. I sat down, exhausted. Moments later, the woman entered the room with a glass of sherbet. "My bag is missing," I told her, feeling helpless. She didn't react at all. Instead, she sat in front of me. This was when the real terror began.